newer effort to essentially, if you can't beat them, cheat them strategy by Donald Trump, who is now the leader of the Republican movement. What I would say is that elections are won on Main Street and my street. We talk about these things on K Street. When Democrats have been message, disciplined, and focused in every single election since the election of Donald Trump to the presidency, not only have we outperformed the narrative, we've been able to outperform the expectation and win seats that no one thought we would be able to win. And part of the reason we've been able to do that is because we've been able to focus on this unnecessary affordability crisis created by Donald Trump and the Republican Party. If you add to that this war of choice that's costing us $1 billion a day, the American people are pissed off and they continue to express their disappointment and their frustration at the ballot box when given an opportunity. And to one more point that Paul made, I would also add, we learned this in previous elections, it's easier to vote against something than it is to vote for something. So when people say Democrats are just as bad as Republicans, I will remind you, sometimes it's not a vote for Democrats, it's a vote against the people who are in charge, calling all the pain that most of us as Americans feel every day.
Okay, so to that point, Paul, I want to talk about the what Democrats are selling to people out there as we look to the fall, and I want to play something from former President Barack Obama, and then there's another clip. So this is the former president. This is what he said last week.
What I'm more interested in for Democrats is, do you know how to just talk to regular people like we're not in a college seminar, right? You know, can you talk plain English to folks? And so what I'm looking for...
Is there a strict no gobbledygook?
No gobbledygook.
Here you should carve that into the wall somewhere.
And then we heard from Congresswoman Debbie Dingell of Michigan this morning, and she was talking about a version of this. This is what she said.
You're saying that you should not just focus on strictly being an anti-Trump party. Is that right?
You can't. That's not going to win. You got to show people how you understand how they're hurting and what we're going to do to help you on multiple fronts.
So, Paul, I'm curious what you would say to Democrats out there running on that. It's Barack Obama saying talk like a regular person, and somebody like Debbie Dingell saying, yeah, it's not enough to just say don't vote for Trump. Trump is bad. The Democrats have to have a solution too.
Well, yeah, Antoine's right though. First off, a midterm election is a very simple choice. Do we hit the gas or hit the brakes? Mm-hmm. That's it. That's it. And this is a brake pedal election if I've ever seen one. The last time Trump had a midterm, he lost 41 seats. By the way, President Obama, who I was honored to help reelect, he lost 60 seats, 62 in his first midterm. So there is a correction that's going to come anyway. But Democrats are, at their best, talking about cost. Okay, costs are too dang high. Gas was $2.95 on the day Trump entered. It's $4.52 today. That alone, and add to that the explosion in costs of health care, child care, elder care, all the things that kind of keep us going. By the way, property insurance because of climate change and fossil fuels, electric bills. So all of those things that Democrats need to have what they'll do to make it better. We start with raising the minimum wage, start with lower the cost of health insurance under Obamacare, which they have raised. There's a lot of things Democrats can and should do, but fundamentally, people are really tired of the party in power, and they're gonna send a message. They have sent a message. There have been 229 elections since Trump came in, and 193 of them, the Democrat outperformed Kamala Harris, who only lost by that much. So we're winning everything that's not nailed down. Here in Virginia, there are 133 electoral districts, counties, cities, and so forth. Abigail Spanberger improved the Democratic performance in all 133 of them. Rural Virginia, suburban Virginia, urban Virginia. So people are trying to tell us something, and they're telling us they want change, and Democrats are the party of change.
And Antoine, okay, to Paul's point, so as we head toward these midterms, there's also what we're seeing, these primaries that are playing out right now. I'm thinking about the Michigan primary, Senate primary, but there's a lot of them playing out all over across the country. And the question before Democrats is what type of candidate is the right one to do what Paul's talking about, to win in the fall, even look ahead to 2028, which is a far ways away, but I do think, we are starting to kind of look that direction. And is it to go more progressive? Is it to be more moderate of a candidate? What do you think is the right thing for the Democratic Party moving forward if they want to win nationally?
Balance. We can have a little hip hop and R&B. We can have a little country and a little rock and roll, and that's the diversity of our party, and that's one of the things that we value and appreciate. But I would just say, in the primary, you make a choice. In the general election, you're given a choice. We have to choose wisely because we know the big task ahead of us is how we compete in November. And no matter who prevails in the primary, one of the most important factors we all must agree upon is that the differences we appear to have amongst each other do not compare to the differences we have with the other side. So that's going to take unity. That's going to take message discipline and focus. That's going to take a little financing, no political romance without finance. So money is going to be an important factor. I would also say it's going to require us to meet the moment. That means running campaigns that include a high-tech and a high-touch element. We can't just do the things that are online and expect us to win. We have to add a little grassroots to that, and we can't just do the grassroots, the everyday touching. We have to make certain that we merge those things, and that's when Democrats are out their best. Now, I don't want the expectations to be that we're automatically going to win because people are pissed off or angry at Republicans. We always knew we were going to be punching above our political weight going into the cycle. But I am here to confirm to you, based on previous elections we've had since Donald Trump has taken office, when we've used the Republican crisis that they created called affordability as our North Star, we found very much so political currency and nutritional value in that. And that's what the voters' expectation for us is always going to be. How are we different from the people who have put us in this unnecessary choice economy?
And Paul, I'll give you the last word on this because I'm curious your thoughts on that too, in terms of the type of, once you get through the primary, to Antoine's point, if you want to win in November, who are the best type of candidates and what might that look like as Democrats play that out amongst themselves?
Well, you got to have, Antoine's exactly right. You got to have candidates who fit the district. So in New York City, that was a Democratic socialist. Fine. In Virginia, it was a former CIA officer, moderate. In New Jersey, it was a former Navy helicopter pilot, a moderate. This is the finest class of candidates I have seen recruited in decades for the Democratic Party. Okay, they've gotten accomplished, experienced people who I think are going to win, like Roy Cooper in North Carolina, like Sherrod Brown in Ohio, like Mary Peltola in Alaska. You watch Alaska, but then exciting newcomers. My buddy James Tallarico in my beloved Texas, and this is going to shock everybody. Scott Coleman, Mississippi. Keep your eyes on Mississippi. Scott is running for that Senate seat down there. He's an amazing guy. He's a prosecutor, very successful. Should have been on the federal court, but he got busted by Cindy Hyde-Smith, who Scott is calling Cindy High Prices, which is a pretty good thing to call your opponent in an era of high inflation. So I think Democrats, they're recruiting. It's mostly one in the middle. Let's be honest. Campaigns or elections are run one in the middle because it's a moderate country. But what we're doing is finding candidates who fit their districts, who fit their states, and then putting them on the track and backing them. And I love that.
All right, Antoine
Jessica,
and Paul.
Jessica, if I can say very quickly, every time people have counted us out as Democrats, we've always taught them that they do not know how to count. Expect that to be the order of the day in November of this year.
Okay, this is very positive. We even have Paul pushing a Democratic senator, maybe from Mississippi. That could be something. All right, Antoine and Paul, it's good to see both of you. Really great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jess.
Yeah. Global health experts say the hantavirus outbreak on the cruise ship is not like COVID, and yet a lot of people are still really anxious about all of this. We have a clinical psychologist joining us up next here in the CNN Newsroom.
I can follow you like a dog to the end of the world. To the end of the world. To the end of the world. Do you want me to stop?
This is you, needing a therapist. And here's Headway, with over 65,000. Need a Spanish speaker who gets your quirky Chilean family? They're on Headway. An ADHD expert with New York vibes? They're on Headway. Someone who can treat your depression in person? They're all on Headway. Here are the therapists in your state and the ones who take your insurance. And here's the one who will understand you. Start feeling better with Headway.
Explore CNN podcasts for your daily dose of news, culture, and smart storytelling. Whether you want to be swept off your feet,
I just hollered and I said, hey, are you single?
Or navigate cutting-edge tech.
Can I ask a nerdy question?
Follow doctor's orders.
Research shows even a 5-minute walk will do you good.
And discover the conversations shaping our world.
Where do you want to start?
Follow and listen to CNN podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts.
Caitlin Collins is your DC source, bringing you unprecedented access to the White House.
What would you say to the survivors who feel like they haven't gotten justice?
Capitol Hill.
What does re-examining that look like? Are you saying that that's not going to happen? What exactly are your day-to-day responsibilities?
And beyond.
And good evening from Davos, Switzerland, where President Trump just capped off a whirlwind trip. You were obviously named by President Trump.
For in-depth political coverage and analysis, watch The Source, weeknights at 9 on CNN and watch on the CNN app.
Kara Swisher wants to live forever. Saturday on CNN and next day on the CNN app.
30 seconds.
Wake up. Breaking overnight. Catch up.
New details and more questions.
Start your mornings here.
This is a pivotal week.
CNN News Central. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on CNN and watch at 8 on the CNN app.
Welcome to Drag Brunch. We attract a ton of customers, create a lot of buzz, and it makes the restaurants cha-ching.
This is an incredible story. The stakes were extremely high.
You could hear the gasp.
Columbia, Houston, comm check.
It's very difficult to determine whom you can trust.
747s don't fall out of the sky.
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage.
Something went on that's still with us.
Aaron Burnett out front. Weeknights at 7 on CNN and watch on the CNN app.
When did this formality of coursing out a meal begin?
It's a little bit of tableside theater.
It's all so harmonious, right?
This plate is paradise.
Eva Longoria, Searching for France. Tonight at 9 on CNN and next day on the CNN app.
Celebrate 20 years of Planet Earth.
If you think you've seen the best the natural world has to offer, think again.
Celebrate the anniversary of Planet Earth with a full collection of nature documentaries on Discovery+.
Disaster, the Chernobyl meltdown, next Sunday on CNN and next day on the CNN app.
We're going to Normandy for the 80th anniversary of D-Day. My life is a miracle.
Why We Dream premieres Memorial Day on CNN and next day on the CNN app.
The Imperial Presidency, a Fareed Zakaria special, tonight at 8 on CNN.
Daniel Day Kim explores the Korean wave on K Everything. K Everything, now streaming on the CNN app.
What's happening in the arena? I'll bring you the latest from the players who are actually in the game. Because I want answers, and so do you.
The Arena with Casey Hunt, weekdays at 4 on CNN, and watch on the CNN app.
CNN This Morning with Audie Cornish. Weekdays at 6 a.m. on CNN.
All 17 Americans are now on board a plane home after evacuating the cruise ship at the center of the deadly outbreak of hantavirus. They've been medically assessed. They're now headed to the University of Nebraska Medical Center, home to the National Quarantine Unit, where they'll be checked again for any symptoms signaling early stages of that virus. Dr. Jeff Gardere joins us now. He's a clinical psychologist and professor of behavioral medicine at Touro University. Thanks so much for being here with us. Look, there's the medical piece to this story that we've been covering. There's also the logistics piece and how they're managing an outbreak like this. But there is sort of a collective PTSD following the global COVID pandemic that I think really sends a shiver up a lot of people's spines where they go, is this again? Why, they're really anxious about this, despite global health experts saying this isn't COVID.
Yeah, well, thank God that's the kind of information that we're getting that is reassuring, but you're absolutely correct. I think a lot of researchers, scientists have said that there is a form of collective psychological trauma due to the global pandemic of COVID-19. And therefore, whatever reassurance that we may be getting, whatever news that we're getting that's showing that this is under control, people are going to revisit. They have a disproportionately intense public fear of what happened with COVID-19. So it reactivates a lot of these memories and emotions from what we went through with that unprecedented global pandemic, which happened in our lifetime.
Is there a tendency for the human brain to try to connect all of these things to make it feel more similar, in the sense that, like, we've already had this experience, so our brain has been trained to have this experience, and even though the experts are saying, hang on everyone, this is not that, like, pump the brakes, our brains can kind of get ahead of us?
Yeah, absolutely. And our brains are going back to what happened. Look, we can physically get through these traumas. As we know, there was so much death, so much illness, long COVID, and so on. And we've dealt with that, with the reality of it. But the mind doesn't move on as quickly. So the mind, as you're saying, will go to something that is very similar in the experience so that it can identify what it is that's going on. In some ways, that's a healthy reaction, but in other ways, given the PTSD that many of us have had from the global pandemic, it makes that situation even much, much worse with something new like this, like the hantavirus that we're dealing with.
And so quickly, what is your advice to people to kind of calm their fears?
Sure. My advice to people is to get as much accurate information as you can. Listen to a broadcast like this where we're giving common sense advice and actually identifying what people are going through so they know that they're not going through it alone or that it's not unusual, and to stay away from fear-driven media or misinformation. And then finally, Jessica, control what you can. Good hygiene, sleep, exercise, social connection, so important. And of course, speak to your medical provider to get as much accurate information as you can.
Accurate information is the gold standard here. Dr. Jeff Gardere, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Celebrate 20 years of Planet Earth. Relive the wonder. Now streaming every episode. Featuring David Attenborough.
If you think you've seen the best the natural world has to offer, think again.
Celebrate the anniversary of Planet Earth with a full collection of nature documentaries on Discovery+.
I want to make the most of every day. I do want to do 8 shows a week on Broadway. I do want to travel. And it gives me such peace of mind to know that I have this really simple and yet trusted way of getting all the nutrition I need.
Oh, it's good.
Best time of the year.
There's nothing better than Stanley Cup. We have the greatest trophy in all of sports.
I love hockey. Non-stop action.
Any team is capable on any given night.
Must-see TV.
This sport's great of all time.
I think there's anything more exciting than playoff hockey.
This Tokyo series shows what baseball means to Japan.
All of Japan will say they were at this game.
Homecoming, the Tokyo series, now streaming on the CNN app.
People ask what I've been up to since high school.
Let's have some fun.
After all these years, have we finally gone too far?
Hello. I'm gonna tell you about Mal Kennedy. The first time I met him, he was only a kid.
We're family now.
Ruben, it's the best and the worst thing all at once.
Don't talk like you're better than me.
I hate the way you live your life.
But that doesn't stop me wanting every bit of it.
I still trust you more than anyone.
In a divided America,
where do I fit?
You tell me, ask your party. Abby Phillip brings all sides to the table.
I hear what you're saying Trump believes in, but do you think it's a good idea?
Newsnight with Abby Phillip, weeknights at 10 on CNN and watch on the CNN app.
I can follow you like a dog to the end of the world.
To the end of the world. To the end of the world. Do you want me to stop?
How do you live? I have a purpose. It means I have an obligation.
You think it's that simple?
Yeah, I do.
I want to show you why I became American on purpose. So you take a little bit of this and you take a little bit of that, boom, you get America.
Craig Ferguson, American on Purpose. May 30th on CNN and next day on the CNN app.
It's amazing, the sights and the smells.
Women growing, selling, and using cannabis.
Do you wish you had started using cannabis earlier in life?
I do. So do my kids.
Does their shared passion for pot pose any risks? Dr. Sanjay Gupta reports. Weed 8, now streaming on CNN.
Finance meeting in 5
minutes? Ramp? I got it. Allow me. Hi, handsome. We're saving so much time and money. Policy violation coming through. Travel, meals, hotels. How's this? Beautiful. Everybody's in. Nailed it. Multiply what's possible at ramp.com. Careful. Got it. Careful. Don't stay too late.
I'll try.
Friday night, closing the books. Just a few more hours. That's not true. $120 for what? Gonna need some coffee. Uh-oh. Who authorized this? Did we pay this twice? Well, hello. Did Ramp just auto-code all the invoices? All the receipts are here. Boom, boom, boom. Yes. Love closing the books on time. Ramp. Love finance.
With a month to go before the start of the FIFA World Cup, excitement is building, but the high cost of tickets for matches being played in the U.S., Mexico, and Canada may mean a lot of fans will have to watch from home. Tickets for one of the tournament's hottest early matchups, Brazil versus Morocco in New Jersey, are selling from around $1,500 to as much as $58,000 on StubHub. Our Lee Waldman is at New York at Penn Station. Lee, ticket prices vary wildly, but in general, this is not cheap. I think that is a fair statement.
It's not cheap to get to the games, Jessica. It's not cheap to watch the games. If you're trying to save money, maybe watch from home. But you and I can go see the final game of the World Cup together at MetLife on July 19th for the low, low price of $2.2 million. Those tickets were just listed at the end of April, right near one of the goals. If you want to snag a resale ticket, you can go to FIFA Marketplace, their official resale website, but they don't control the prices there, and people are reselling these tickets for thousands, even millions of dollars. Now, FIFA does take a cut from both the buying and the selling side of things, but they put out a statement when asked about the affordability of these games. They said FIFA's pricing strategy spans a broad range of price points and categories reflecting market demand for each match. Tickets have been released across sales phases such as Category 4 at the most accessible price point and a minimum of 1,000 tickets priced at $60 for every match via participating teams, including the final. You're just not really able to get any of those tickets anymore. New York City's Mayor Zohran Mamdani weighed in on the affordability of these games.
I've been very clear about where I stand on the affordability of tickets. Soccer is a game that was born out of the working class. The ticket prices that we are seeing are not ones that many working people could even dream of affording.
Now, Jessica, if you're a Costco member, I've got some special deals for you here. If you want one game match, you can pay starting at $4,750 for 2 tickets. If you want to go see the finale and see another game for a 2-game match, you can pay $39,100 for 2 tickets. If you just want to catch 2 games, including one of the quarterfinals, you will be shelling out $21,950. But don't worry, you also get a Costco gift card with that price.
I was just looking at that. I mean, hey, you're going to need it. If you're paying $21,000 for tickets, you should get a gift card. What about lodging? How are people dealing with that?
Well, so we know, according to the American Hotel and Lodging Association, there was big predictions for people who were going to be flooding to the hotels in these host cities. That's not quite happening here. Let's take a look at just a few of these host cities. Kansas City, 85 to 90% of respondents are not meeting demand. That's the same story in Los Angeles and here in New York City. Interestingly enough, though, in New York City, more than 60% of these New York City hotels that were surveyed were saying that travel barriers and geopolitical concerns were impacting their bookings. In Atlanta, it's kind of a half and half. Half are meeting their demand, half aren't. The Lodging Association told us in an interview that people are just facing budget concerns, and that's part of the reason why they're not meeting that demand here, Jessica.
All right, Lee Waldman here in New York. Thanks so much, and we'll be right back.
Celebrate 20 years of Planet Earth. Relive the wonder. Now streaming every episode. Featuring David Attenborough.
If you think you've seen the best the natural world has to offer, think again.
Celebrate the anniversary of Planet Earth with a full collection of nature documentaries on Discovery+.
We've been part of the firsts, the messes, the memories you keep forever. For 160 years, Carter's has wrapped love around every step. Trusted by generations, made for this moment.
You're a best-selling author. We could use your help.
This is college. You can be whoever you want.
This is the best night of my life!
A lot of people ask what I've been up to since high school. Honestly, nothing good.
Remember me? Let's have some fun.
After all these years, have we finally gone too far?
Excuse me. Do I know you? Marty Mouser, Royal Suite. I'm gonna be staring at you from the cover of a Wheaties box.
I'm on a new level. Hello.
Hey. Boy, I have a purpose.
Ruben, it's the best and the worst thing all at once. You messed up my life.
I still trust you more than anyone.
Weeknights on CNN.
Tonight on 360.
The stories that matter.
This whole area is just engulfed in flames.
From a trusted voice.
We witnessed something nobody alive has ever seen before. You said that AI could wipe out half of all entry-level jobs. How soon might that happen?
A fearless eyewitness.
We just got a red alert to go down to the bomb shelter.
Every night makes sense of the world. Anderson Cooper 360. Weeknights at 8 on CNN and watch on the CNN app.
Welcome to Drag Brunch. We attract a ton of customers, create a lot of buzz, and it makes the restaurants cha-ching.
Every weeknight, we cover it all. Will you take this all the way to the Supreme Court?
I'm not refuting a syllable of what you said.
What do you say to people who are looking to find their voice?
Laura Coates Live, weeknights at 11 on CNN and watch on the CNN app.
Sitcoms are making a comeback. Knew they would.
We've got work to do.
Don't look at your phone to see what people think.
I looked, and I know.
This won't be just a stand-up show. This is bigger than just me.
Pick up the pace! Here we go!
Another day in the finance department. Wait, did we pay this already? 6070 airfare, 6040 meals and entertainment. Receipts, expense reports, invoices, purchase orders. What's that? Ramp? Cards with built-in policies. Expenses that submit themselves? Look at it go. Okay, but does it code automatic? Oh. We're fixing the parts of finance you hate. Ramp. Love finance.
You're in the CNN newsroom. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Dean here in New York, and we are following breaking news tonight as 17 Americans are now headed back to the U.S. after they were on board that cruise ship at the center of the deadly hantavirus outbreak. The plane now headed to a quarantine facility in Nebraska. If these passengers continue to show no symptoms, they will be allowed to go home, where they will be monitored daily for the next 42 days. So far, health officials say none of those Americans are showing symptoms. 94 people in total disembarked today from the ship. Not everyone's off yet, though. The final 2 flights to evacuate people to Australia and the Netherlands will depart tomorrow. Those passengers will spend one more night on board the ship tonight. And also this, we're now learning one French passenger did become sick and started showing symptoms today while on their flight home to France after clearing medical screenings. Let's bring in CNN's Rafael Romo, who joins us now from the CDC headquarters in Atlanta. Rafael, the Americans now on board that plane. They are headed back to Nebraska. What more are you learning?
Yeah, they're headed back, Jessica, but make no mistake about it, it's going to be a while before they can actually be home. You just told us how the day ended. Let me share with you how the day started for those passengers. The MV Hondias, the cruise ship at the center of the hantavirus outbreak, initially moved into the port of Tenerife in the Canary Islands as expected just after 1 a.m. Eastern time or 6 in the morning local time in the Spanish archipelago, according to marine tracking data. The first passengers disembarked just after 6:30 U.S. Eastern Time or 11:30 in the morning local time. What followed was a carefully managed operation to evacuate passengers and escort them to flights arranged by multiple nations, including, of course, the United States. The passengers were seen wearing personal protective equipment, with some pointing their phones toward the shore where the world's media, including our very own CNN team on the ground, witnessed the moment. Passengers from the United States began disembarking the MV Hondias just after 3 p.m. Eastern Time or 8 p.m. local time. As you mentioned, a total of 17 American citizens have been on board the hantavirus-stricken cruise. In an interview with CNN's Jake Tapper on State of the Union this morning, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention acting director also explained they will be flown to Nebraska. A team of experts there from the CDC will be waiting for them.
We're going to interview them and assess them for risk. Risk meaning, in this case, risk doesn't mean the risk of dying from the disease or anything. The risk is a high risk if they've been in close contact with somebody who was symptomatic. If they weren't in close contact with someone who was symptomatic, then we're going to deem them low risk. If they were in close contact, we're going to deem them medium or high risk.
Jessica, Dr. Bhattacharya said that once that assessment is made, health officials will offer the passengers several alternatives. Those options include staying in Nebraska, where the National Quarantine Unit, which is a federally funded facility, is located. Another option, according to Bhattacharya, is allowing the passengers to, quote, safely drive home without exposing other people on the way. Those people would be monitored by their state and local public health agencies. One point that the acting CDC director seemed eager to emphasize, Jessica, is that even though the memory of COVID is fresh in people's memories, it would be wrong, he said, to assume we're dealing with similar risks. Jessica?
All right, Rafael Romo, thank you for that. And we're joined now by Dr. Robert Redfield, former CDC director during President Trump's first term, which did include the first year of the COVID-19 pandemic. He's also the author of Redfield's Warning, What I Learned But Couldn't Tell You might save your life. Dr. Redfield, thanks for being with us tonight. We really do appreciate it. I first just want to get your assessment of how the CDC is handling this outbreak so far. And we just heard from Raphael there that this is not COVID, that's what the global health officials are saying as well. What do you think of all of that?
Well, I think CDC is, having a very appropriate response. They obviously met the Americans in the Canary Islands, did a risk assessment of the individuals, and obviously they're meeting them again when they arrive in Nebraska. That Nebraska facility is a facility we have in the United States to be able to evaluate people that have significant pathogens. And as Jay Bhattacharya said, they'll have a very careful risk assessment there to determine what their individual risk is based on exposure. I suspect most of them will probably have moderate to high risk exposure just for the fact that they were on the vessel for that period of time with individuals that were infected. And then they'll make a judgment in each individual case, whether they stay in the facility or, as he mentioned, whether they can be maintained in isolation by going home on their own, driving in a private vehicle, for example, so they don't put any risk to people on airplanes. It's important to realize this virus is very, very difficult to transmit. It's also important to emphasize, unlike COVID, where when I was CDC director, we didn't have any experience with COVID as a virus. We didn't know anything about it. This virus, these viruses we've had for many, many years. Hantaviruses were a major virus that the U.S. government had to deal with during the Korean War. So we have a lot of experience with this virus. Most of these viruses only go rodent to man, rodent to man, rodent to man, these hantaviruses. There is one exception, which is the Andes virus, which is the strain, unfortunately, that is involved in this ship and is circulating in Argentina. Many people may not know that since July last summer, they've had over 100 cases of hantavirus infection with the Andes virus in Argentina, and it's moved out of Patagonia into central Argentina. And one of the things that has people, taking this quite seriously, of those 100 patients, they've had about a 35 to 40% human mortality. So this is a dangerous virus if you get it, but it's very hard to get.
And I think that is very important for people to know and understand. We did hear today about this one French passenger who had cleared the initial medical assessment, let's call it, and then started showing symptoms while flying home. What do you think about how these passengers are being handled, treated, and the protocol surrounding how they're getting people off this boat and back home?
Yeah, I think it's important first to realize, and this is one of the complexities, that the incubation period from the time an individual gets infected to the time they get symptoms may be as long as 8 weeks. So you can see it's kind of hard when they evaluate these individuals. It's a long time. Yeah. And I'm more conservative so I think, I'm more conservative and say, well, it's probably better to keep these people out of the public domain until that incubation period is over. Now you see the consequences. Now you have an individual flying on a public plane to France, and now you have other people who are on that plane, and you're going to have other people now defined as high-risk contacts, because if you were sitting next to this person on the plane for 2 or 3 hours, that's a high-risk contact. And so now you sort of have another group of people you got to bring into the evaluation period. And unfortunately, you got to bring them into that evaluation period for another 6 to 8 weeks. So I think I'm very confident in the CDC. They got really good people that are handling this. I have a lot of confidence in Jay Bhattacharya, who's the acting director. I've spoken to all of them. I think they'll make that assessment in Nebraska and make a decision should the individuals stay in Nebraska for the period of time where they could be incubating this infection if they're infected, or do they feel that the likelihood of infection is low enough that they can go home and still stay in an isolated environment and let the local public health officials of each of the states continue to monitor them. And they'll be monitored on a daily basis for the development of symptoms. The problem I have and for all of us, is the symptoms for Hanta are very nondescript. It's fever, malaise, diarrhea, nausea, headache. So, I mean, that could be flu, that could be, an upper respiratory tract and virus infection. So it's very hard to distinguish early on. After you've gone through that period, say 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days into infection, then you develop what we call the hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, which is a quite severe complication, frequently associated with death. But initially it's hard. Do I have the flu? Do I have the COVID virus? So in a way, it's easier to monitor them in a more contained environment.
Certainly. I mean, that makes logical sense. All right, Dr. Robert Redfield, thank you so much. We do appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jessica. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Still ahead, President Trump reacting to Iran's latest response to the U.S. proposal to end the war. He's calling it totally unacceptable. Plus, Democrats in California shifting their strategy in the gubernatorial race, what they're doing to try to avoid being locked out by Republicans. In the CNN newsroom.
Ruben, it's the best and the worst thing all at once. You messed up my life.
I still trust you more than anyone.
A lot of people ask what I've been up to since high school. Honestly, nothing good.
Got me!
Remember me? Let's have some fun.
After all these years, have we finally gone too far?
How do you live? I have a purpose. It means I have an obligation. You think it's that simple?
Yeah, I do.
When you're away from the spotlight, you have time to think about what really matters. The spotlight! This won't be just a stand-up show. This is bigger than just me. You are going to be remembered for comedy.
You are the #1 living legend.
Here we go!
You are best-selling author that the parents have actually heard of.
I doubt that any of my books are on the shelves of this hallowed institution.
They aren't.
I write because sometimes I wish I was someone else. This is college.
You get to reinvent yourself.
That's kind of hot around here.
Hi, Coach.
You're a bad boy.
Welcome to Drag Brunch. Every restaurant needs us for a different reason.
This place is struggling.
I want it to be successful.
Priyanka, I really need your help. We attract a ton of customers, create a lot of buzz, and it makes the restaurants cha-ching.
Drag Brunch saved us.
Sitcoms are making a comeback. Knew they would. We've got work to do.
Don't look at your phone to see what people think.
I looked. I know.
Everything all right, my love? Catherine?
Follow you like a dog to the end of the world.
totally unacceptable. That was President Trump's reaction to Iran's response to the latest U.S. proposal to end the war, though it's not clear exactly what Trump didn't like or what exactly is in Iran's response. The president earlier accusing Tehran of, in his words, playing games and delaying the process. CNN's Oren Lieberman has more now on the negotiations from Jerusalem. Oren.
At this point, we don't know what's in Iran's response to the latest U.S. proposal to end the war in Iran. What we do know from Iran state media is this appears to be fairly focused in nature. According to Iran state media, it's, according to the proposed framework, negotiations at this stage will focus on the issue of ending the war in the region. And that gets at the staged or phased negotiations that Iran has been looking for. Deal with one issue at a time. Deal with ending the war, the Strait of Hormuz, and then the nuclear issue on different timelines. But that's not what the U.S. is looking for. The U.S. and President Donald Trump are looking for a comprehensive agreement, and it appears to be on a fairly fast timeline. Iran, though, not rushing these negotiations at all, taking their time, perhaps dragging out this process, and that's because it's apparent at this point that they feel they're negotiating from a position of strength. They see no reason to rush these along, and they've made clear that they have very hard lines here. They now view the Strait of Hormuz as a strategic Iranian asset, one that public officials there have said they intend to keep control of in negotiations. Well, that, of course, is an immediate hurdle for negotiations, and it's not clear at this point that negotiators and Pakistani mediators can bring together what have been, until this point, very far apart positions from the U.S. and Iran. So even as President Donald Trump and others have tried to signal some sort of optimism here, enormous gaps still remain, and we'll see if the latest Iranian response to the U.S. proposal addresses those. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave an interview to CBS's 60 Minutes where he said there's more work to be done when it comes to Iran. In the interview, he acknowledged that the main issues that Israel and the U.S. were initially looking at, that is, removing the highly enriched uranium, more than 400 kilograms of it, the nuclear program in nuclear facilities, ballistic missiles, support for proxies in the region, Iran is still able to do all of this to some extent. Of course, the U.S. and Israeli strikes have degraded Iran's military, decapitated its regime, but all of these are still capabilities that Iran holds. So Netanyahu said there is more work to be done. He said the highly enriched uranium can be removed physically, seeming to hint that there could be an agreement to remove it with inspectors going in, or it could be military force that tries to remove that. But he refused to put a timeline on what it would take to do that, as right now negotiations at a very critical point, perhaps even a very fragile point here as we wait to see where this goes. Oren Lieberman, CNN in Jerusalem.
All right, Oren, thank you for that. Let's talk more about all of this with CNN national security analyst Alex Pleitsis. He's also director of the counterterrorism program at the Atlantic Council. Alex, good to see you as always. Let's start first with the president's response that we got just a short time ago. He said it's totally unacceptable. He said he didn't like it. What happens now?
Well, the president was waiting to see what the initial response was going to be, and then we're supposed to take this week to see if we could craft something that both sides could come to an agreement on, and he was hoping by the time he got back from China that this would sort of be worked out. Unfortunately, what came back today from the Iranians appears to be still maximalist on their sides. They want to control the Straits of Hormuz still afterwards. They don't want to completely give up their right to enrichment and also not completely give up all of their highly enriched uranium. They want to retain some of it. None of these terms are acceptable to the president. They've been very clear since the beginning that he's not going to stand for a potential future Iranian nuclear program. And he's sort of said that as the red line policy in the sand, and the Iranians are still pushing back.
Alex, are we at a stalemate? Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I think at this point, from a negotiating standpoint, I think it appears to be a stalemate. We've imposed maximum pressure in terms of the blockade on the Iranian ports and anything getting in or out. We've struck 13,000 targets at this point out of about 16,000 total, if my math serves correct from what CENTCOM has briefed. As the president mentioned, there's still a couple weeks of targets left. But the president was hoping at this point that if we pulled back and gave them a chance to negotiate, that there would be some give and take, and that at least there would be room on the nuclear side to come to the table, solve those remaining issues, and potentially end the conflict. But unfortunately, it does appear that we're negotiating stalemate at this point. If they retain that position, they're not going to budge.
And so then what is a breakthrough? How do you get a breakthrough?
Well, there's only a couple of options here. The U.S. can respond again and see if there'll be any room to move on these positions, although I think it's been clear that this has gone back and forth a few times and there's been no movement. The president suggested that, unfortunately, that may mean additional military action. And if that takes place, what has been discussed at this point is what he called Project Freedom Plus, which would be reimposing, opening of the straits by force if necessary, which the Iranians have already responded to, with military action. We've seen them attack ships, fired on U.S. ships, but then also potentially decapitation strikes on the elements inside of Iran that are holding up a deal. We're hearing that elements of the IRGC are particularly problematic, including Bahidi, the guy in charge, as well as some of the intelligence service. So we could see infrastructure strikes inside the country. We could see oil and gas. We could see decapitation strikes and strikes along the strait. Unfortunately, it looks like we are barreling back towards military conflict unless the Iranians are going to move on some of these positions.
And sources say that the president and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke earlier today. Netanyahu saying in a new interview that he thinks there's still work to be done here. How do you think Israel is factoring into the U.S. involvement and the U.S. strategy and movements right now?
Prior to the hostilities kicking off, no one was really on the same page as to what the threat was. For President Trump, it was the nuclear program. For the Israelis, it was the ballistic missile program. And for the region, it was the proxy forces or groups like Hezbollah or the militias in Iraq that were largely problematic. But now, since the conflict has kicked off, everybody's sort of coalesced around the idea that the Iranians can't have those types of drones and missiles in large numbers, that they can't be defended against, and the proxies are also a problem. So I think, for the Israelis, they've seen significant, disruption of Iran's military capabilities. But the last piece is really the nuclear program, which, again, President Trump had made his signature item. And so this is normal. You want to wait until the end, make sure that you get all of the offensive capabilities you can, all of the air defenses, et cetera. And then the most difficult targets, if you had to go after them, are potentially those, remnants of highly enriched uranium that are buried either under Isfahan or in Natanz. And that's kind of where we're at right now. And I think that both President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, that is, have both made it clear that the highly enriched uranium needs to come out of the country and that enrichment isn't on the table. So if there's no way to negotiate this, I think they're both very clear that there's going to have to be additional military action.
And just briefly, you mentioned the broader region. The UAE says their air defenses dealt with 2 drones that had been launched from Iran earlier today. What are you hearing about the broader Gulf region and how it's enduring all of this?
So the broader Gulf didn't want to be part of this from the beginning. A couple of countries weren't actively involved in the beginning, from Oman and Qatar, to trying to make sure that this didn't happen. Then after it kicked off, Iran decided it was going to try to pressure the United States by attacking all of the GCC states and then hoping that those Gulf Arab countries would pressure the U.S. to get it to stop. But it backfired. And now that they've done that, the collective region is basically saying, hey, we do not want a wounded animal that's left in Iran with these capabilities to continue to attack us afterwards that we can't defend against. If we have to go do this, let's go back and finish the job and get it done right. They'd prefer that this is settled through negotiation, that this doesn't continue into military action. But if military action, is needed again, go back and finish the job is the message that we're hearing behind closed doors from just about everybody in the region.
All right, so more to come. Alex Pleitz, it's always great to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And still ahead, how potential 2028 presidential hopefuls are hitting the campaign trail in a different way, taking a page out of influencers' books. In the CNN newsroom.
Hey. Hi. Could you please submit your expenses today? You have those expense reports? Hi. Can you submit those receipts?
Never chase a receipt again. Ram. Love finance.
People ask what I've been up to since high school.
Let's have some fun.
After all these years, have we finally gone too far?
OMG, they must think we're so dumb that we'll just fly into that bug zapper and die.
Lol, I die.
And now this Orkin Pro? Ew.
Ew.
Let's go, besties. Who was that?
Smells like Ashley. Sad. R.I.P. girl.
Orkin, the best in pests.
I tried every fad diet that was out.
The cabbage soup diet.
The cayenne pepper and maple syrup diet.
Kickboxing, step aerobics, half marathon, putting on trash bags to create like my own mini sauna. Every pill, every powder.
I've tried it all.
And I didn't really lose any weight.
Once I started my GLP-1, my relationship with food changed.
Mochi helped me lose over 100 pounds.
I've lost 60 pounds. It's the healthiest thing I've done for myself in a decade.
Check out joinmochi.com.
You know what time it is. We all do.
Come on, man. Come on, man. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Together on 3. 1, 2, 3.
This is the NBA playoffs. The stage is set, the mic is on.
Let's go!
There's only one question left to answer. Who's got something to say? The 2026 NBA playoffs.
Everything all right, my love? Catherine?
Follow you like a dog to the end of the world.
Excuse me. Do I know you? Marty Miles, a royal suite. I'm gonna be staring at you from the cover of a Wheaties box.
I'm on a new level.
Hello.
Hey. Boy, I have a purpose. My brother. People like him don't change.
You wonder if I'm here for revenge. Don't be ridiculous. It's already mine.
I hate everything about you. You're the best and the worst thing all at once. You're going to kill me, Reuben.
Now there's an idea.
You could spend all night checking every receipt and coding every expense. Or you could let Ramp do it. Close the books without the busy work. Ramp. Love finance.
When it comes to running for office, things are changing in a lot of ways. Local news has been declining in importance for a lot of younger voters. Coverage of campaigns isn't always happening with the vigor that it used to. And now many politicians are working to get attention on their own, and they're using social media to develop their own brand. You look at someone like New York City Mayor Zoran Ramdani, who regularly uses social media to get his message out.
When I ran for mayor, I said I was going to tax the rich. Well, today, we're taxing the rich.
And obviously, that video, Sarah, in particular, went viral for a lot of reasons, got a ton of pushback. But you think about his campaign and how he used social media to really go from being someone that a lot of people hadn't heard of to ultimately winning and beating the Democratic establishment. It is quite something. Sarah Fisher, a CNN media analyst and media correspondent for Axios, wrote about this topic. She joins us now. So what are you noticing? What are you seeing happening here?
Yeah, well, myself and my colleague Harry Flynn decided to do a big deep dive on this because going into the 2028 election, Jessica, the media strategies that have been leveraged for decades are going to be drastically different. For one, yes, of course, politicians are leaning more heavily into social media, but they're also leaning into developing their own properties. And that's not something that we've seen as much in other elections. So what do I mean by that? Their own podcasts, their own newsletters, their own video first sort of vlogs, if you will, their own merch stores even. And the reason they're doing this is because in this day and age, so much money is being spent on elections that if you can't develop a national brand to be able to fundraise at the national level, you're not going to be able to compete for some of those big national positions like president, or even for, senators and members of the House. This is becoming the reality too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about some of these, like you're talking about Senate seats or even House seats, but they can be very expensive. You've got to run in the primary, then you've got to run in a general. And if you live in a state that has a really expensive media market, you need fundraising from all across the country. And this is a way to reach, Democrats or Republicans everywhere.
Yes, and it gives you the ability to build your audience much wider, especially through platforms like email. And what that does is it allows you to collect a lot of data that you will be able to use for your fundraising campaigns later down the line. So for example, when you want to target Facebook ads or Google search ads, oftentimes the best way to do that is to gather critical, voter information data to be able to target accurately. How are you going to get that data, Jessica? Oftentimes it's by developing your own media properties, again, newsletters and things like that, where you can get email addresses that can later be used for targeting. So you got to start really early with this stuff. It's not the type of thing that you can snap your fingers and build overnight. And that's why we're seeing all of these presidential hopefuls, even if they don't know that they're eventually going to run, they're developing these media strategies now so that they can employ them later if they do decide to toss their hat in the ring.
And then you think about the control that they have over how they're presented to people, what their message is. They have full and complete control over that versus coming on and having an interview or something that's more traditional where it goes through another layer. This is essentially direct to consumer.
Yes, and it's reaching younger people. I'd be remiss not to say that. Back in the day, people were clamoring for like local newspaper endorsements and even national newspaper endorsements. I mean, you know this as well as I do. National newspapers are quitting the endorsement game. So are many of the local papers that are owned by huge conglomerates. And no longer is that glossy profile considered the A standard for how you're going to get your brand out there. It really comes down to things like TikTok following or things like podcast downloads. And so this is the new reality for politics. Now, the question becomes, Jessica, what do we make of this in terms of accountability? And that's one of the things we looked into when we wrote this deep dive. Traditionally you had that layer of journalists and editors that were applying scrutiny to an interview when they published the profile. What we have now is this game of sort of like clapback politics, where if someone puts out a video vlog of them visiting with constituents, any number of people on TikTok or on Instagram can just clap back, make it go viral with whatever their comments are on it. And so there's a new layer of accountability. Now, it's not necessarily journalistic, but I would argue it's actually healthy in its own way too, because as especially local journalism falls out, having your own constituents have a voice and a platform to be able to call, a potential politician out and say, this doesn't make sense and this isn't right. There's something to be said for that.
It is really interesting, and we're going to see it more and more, obviously, in these midterms. But certainly, as you mentioned, keep your eye on all those potential 2028 presidential hopefuls and what they're doing now as they potentially prepare for what comes next. Sarah Fisher, great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jessica.
Still ahead, why California Governor Gavin Newsom has not publicly backed a candidate in the contentious race to replace him. You're in the CNN newsroom.
Why are you here?
Nice to see you too, brother.
You still think of him as the boy you grew up with.
And you wonder if I'm here for revenge.
He's lost his mind.
I'm the reason you have meaning in your miserable life.
How do you live? I have a purpose. It means I have an obligation.
You think it's that simple? Yeah, I do.
Everything all right, my love? Catherine?
I follow you like a dog to the end of the world.
A lot of people ask what I've been up to since high school. And honestly, nothing good.
Remember me? Let's have some fun.
After all these years, have we finally gone too far?
Tonight, top Democrats in California are working behind the scenes to prevent their party from getting locked out of the governor's race. With no clear frontrunner and the June 2nd primary now just a few weeks away, officials are pushing to increase turnout and reduce Republican momentum. Let's bring in CNN senior reporter Isaac Dover, who has been doing a lot of reporting on this. Isaac, this is such a fascinating race for a number of reasons, but just start first giving everyone an overview of what you've learned in your reporting.
Well, Jessica, the first thing here to remember is that in California, there's not a primary. It's the people who get the top two vote finishes in this first round, which is on June 2nd, go on to November. So there are 5 Democrats running at this point and 2 Republicans. If both Republicans are in the 1 and 2 spots, then they go on to November. There's no write-in provision in California. That's it. The governor of California will be a Republican. So the Democrats are really concerned about that and are trying to get to have at least one of those top 2 spots occupied by a Democrat, but easier said than done, perhaps. And they are in a melee of their own, trying to figure out who will be in the best position to do it. And they so far have not come close to agreeing on who that should be.
And so as they sort all of this out, what about how they're spending? And also, too, we haven't really heard from a lot of the establishment Democrats out in California weighing in.
Well, that's right. Look, remember, just a couple of weeks ago, Eric Swalwell, the congressman then, was in the race and was leading in a number of polls. But obviously, he had quite a scandal that brought him down, in part with the CNN reporting about multiple women accusing him of sexual misconduct. So when that scrambled the race, that led to even more wariness of getting involved. There were some people, including Senator Adam Schiff, one of the senators from California, who had endorsed Swalwell already. He obviously didn't endorse Swalwell anymore, but he has been, like the others, staying away from this, trying to figure out how to maybe guide what's going on without an outright endorsement, but trying to push up Democratic voter turnout. Ballots are already out in California. A lot of voters received their ballots in the mail starting this past week. And so as that happens, trying to get Democrats to turn those ballots in and to attack Republicans in ways that may not seem the most forthright. There's a new independent expenditure effort that's being funded in part by some really notable Democratic donors, including, for example, $250,000 just last week from one of the big unions, the SEIU union in California, that's endorsed two candidates, not one, but two of the remaining Democrats in the race. So it's a lot that's going on here, and some of it behind the scenes, trying to not get caught in the public embarrassment, potentially, nobody wanting to endorse a candidate who doesn't go on to win. It's a tricky situation.
Yeah, and as someone who's covered politics a long time, Isaac, are you surprised by how this is playing out or not?
I mean, it's the race for governor of California. It's the fourth largest economy in the world. It's a big state with a lot of people and a lot of different constituencies. It is the thing that has confused a lot of people is not that it is a crazy race, but that even into these last couple weeks, there isn't any clear front runner that's coming together. And that's, I spent the time with Gavin Newsom last week, the current governor. He's also watching this closely, trying to figure out what's going on. And so far, sitting back, doing the behind-the-scenes stuff, but not the endorsements.
Yeah, it is a fascinating race to watch. Isaac Dovere, great to see you. Thank you so much. The Americans who were on board that hantavirus-stricken cruise ship now headed back to the United States. We have details on how and where they will quarantine. That's just ahead here in the CNN Newsroom.
Finding the right psychiatrist for you can be quick and easy with Talkiatry. We're an online psychiatry practice with over 600 expert psychiatrists, so you can see someone in days from the comfort of home. We specialize in ADHD, anxiety, depression, and more, and can prescribe medication if you need it. Talkiatry takes insurance. We have over 13,000 five-star reviews, and 86% of patients feel better after 2 visits. Get matched with a psychiatrist who takes your insurance at talkiatry.com.
Everything all right, my love? Catherine?
Follow you like a dog to the end of the world.
A lot of people ask what I've been up to since high school. And honestly, nothing good.
Got me!
Remember me? Let's have some fun.
After all these years, have we finally gone too far?
Why are you here?
Nice to see you too, brother.
You still think of him as the boy you grew up with.
And you wonder if I'm here for revenge.
He's lost his mind.
I'm the reason you have meaning in your miserable life.
Excuse me. Do I know you?
Marty Mauser, Royal Suite.
I'm gonna be staring at you from the cover of a Wheaties box.
I'm on a new level.
Hello.
Hey. Boy, I have a purpose.
Marty! 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 I want you back, baby.
A Palestinian journalist held for about a year in an Israeli prison. He says he was abused physically and psychologically. He was never charged with a crime. The Israel Prison Service did not respond to CNN's questions about his detention. The 59-year-old journalist is one of more than 100 Palestinian media workers arrested by Israel since the start of the war with Hamas in Gaza. CNN's Jeremy Diamond has more now on his story.
The man gingerly walking down the steps is Ali al-Samoudi, a well-known Palestinian journalist.
I've worked with Ali several times, and I, barely recognize him.
The 59-year-old has just been released from Israeli prison, where he was held for a year without charge and without a trial.
Ali, it's so good to see you.
The physical toll of his detention now on display. This is what Samoudi looked like when I last worked with him, 3 months before he was arrested. He lost 130 pounds in prison, about half his body weight.
They basically gave us food only to keep us alive. Breakfast consists of 1 spoon of labneh, a quarter spoon of jam. As for dinner, it's a luxury dinner for us. 2 spoons of hummus and 1 spoon of tahini in addition to an egg.
It was only when he emerged from prison, where mirrors were banned, that he saw his face for the first time in a year.
My situation is difficult, and I understood that, but I didn't imagine it to this extent.
You had already interviewed, I'm sure, Palestinians who were held in Israeli prison, but what was it like to see it and experience it for yourself?
When I came to prison, the reality was different. It was a real hell. One time, after I returned from the visit with the lawyer, they threw us on the ground. An Israeli officer stood and stepped on my head like this and pressed my face into the ground for 4 minutes until I suffocated.
Israel's prison service did not respond to our request for comment about Samoudi's detention. But it's what Samoudi witnessed that's most painful, like the young man who got sick but was refused medical treatment.
He died in front of us. For no reason. He did nothing. Why? Are we not human?
That man is Luay Turkman, a 22-year-old from Jenin who was also held without charge. Israel's prison service didn't respond to our request for comment. Samoudi is among 105 Palestinian journalists who have been imprisoned by Israel since October 7, 2023, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists. 33 are still being held in Israeli prisons, nearly all of them without charge. That pace of detentions landed Israel as the 3rd worst jailer of journalists worldwide last year, behind only China and Myanmar.
When we asked the military at the beginning, when you were detained, we said, why? They said you were, quote, identified with the Islamic Jihad terrorist organization and suspected of transferring funds to the group.
Bullshit.
Bullshit.
No.
They did not ask me once about any suspicions. My arrest is part of the Israeli war against the Palestinian press and media, to silence my voice and block my camera and break my pen, and thus prevent me from practicing my right that all laws and international norms guarantee, the freedom of the press.
Jeremy Diamond, CNN, Jenin, the West Bank.
All right, Jeremy Diamond, thank you so much for that report. And stay with CNN. We have much more ahead here. Later tonight, we have the back-to-back season finale of Searching for France with Eva Longoria, in which she explores the coastal region of Brittany and then returns to Paris to learn the history of a 7-course meal on a Seine River cruise with some of the world's most influential chefs. As the series comes to a close, I sat down with Eva to discuss what reflections she had about the journey.
You essentially took a tour through French gastronomy via a 7-course fine dining meal on a boat on the Seine.
It was on the Alain Ducasse boat, but
Okay.
it was with Eric Ripert. I got to do this really deep dive into the history of Escoffier, who's like the godfather of French cooking. He codified the 5 mother sauces, which all sauces come from. He codified the brigade system, which organized the back kitchen with a military hierarchy. The front of house, maitre d', sommelier, hostess, waiters. He really created the system that we use today.
So there's the amuse-bouche that you had.
Yes.
Was
Which
it classic?
is amuse-bouche is entertaining your mouth. The French do experiment a lot with texture, scent, and hot, cold, savory, and sweet. They really like to put contradictions together on a plate. All the chefs in France take their craft so seriously, and they're just constantly trying to push the limits and explore. I was in the kitchen with the chef that made us this fish. It was just like, how are you good at all of these things?
So there's the Asian influences, there's North African influences.
Maurice Sacco, who's the chef of the moment in France right now, he's an immigrant. He's West African, so in his household, his mother would make traditional West African dishes, but yet he's Parisian. So his restaurant is a West African, Asian-inspired fusion with French cooking. It's really what France is about, which is a mixture of culture.
Where do you see French cooking, French food going?
They've been the standard of excellence for a very long time. When I did Searching for Spain, you saw the movement in the 1990s saying, I'm sick of the French being at the top of this ladder. Then you saw this rise in Spanish gastronomy to rise to the occasion of let's compete. And then you see Japanese cuisine, nipping at the heels of that French standard. And so now everybody's at play. All of the new up-and-coming chefs are bringing that global influence into that cooking.
Be sure to tune in. The new and final episodes of Eva Longoria Searching for France air tonight at 9 Eastern and Pacific, only here on CNN, and then tomorrow on our CNN app. We'll be right back.
Don't stay too late.
I'll try.
Friday night, closing the books. Just a few more hours. That's not true. $120 for what? Gonna need some coffee. Uh-oh. Who authorized this? Did we pay this twice? Well, hello. Did Ramp just auto-code all the invoices? All the receipts are here. Boom, boom, boom. Yes. Love closing the books on time. Ramp. Love finance.
A Beauty Rest mattress gives you unparalleled motion separation, isolating movement with pocketed coil technology, while providing individualized support. Save during our Memorial Day sale at a retailer near you.
Think about all the stuff AG1 replaces. It's a no-brainer. In fact, I tell my neighbours all the time, you don't need pills for this.
Powders for that.
When you can get it all in
One scoop, first thing.
Every morning, before you crack an egg.
Or break a leg.
Yeah, we've heard that.
A few times.
I'm going to call them, make sure they're up. Straight to voicemail. Yo, hey, it's Hugh, your neighbour.
I can follow you like a dog to the end of the world. To the end of the world. To the end of the world. Do you want me to stop?
People ask what I've been up to since high school.
Let's have some fun.
After all these years, have we finally gone too far?
Why are you here?
Nice to see you too, brother.
You still think of him as the boy you grew up with.
And you wonder if I'm here for revenge.
He's lost his mind.
I'm the reason you have meaning in your miserable life.
How do you live? I have a purpose. It means I have an obligation.
You think it's that simple? Yeah, I do.
Another day in the finance department. Wait, did we pay this already? 6070 airfare, 6040 meals and entertainment. Receipts, expense reports, invoices, purchase orders. What's that? RAM? Cards with built-in policies. Expenses that submit themselves? Look at it go. Okay, but does it code automatic? Oh. We're fixing the parts of finance you hate. RAM. Love finance.
You are in the CNN Newsroom. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Dean here in New York. And breaking tonight, 17 Americans who were stuck on that cruise ship hit with the hantavirus are now in the air. They are flying back to the U.S. That plane just left the Canary Islands about an hour ago, heading to a quarantine facility in Nebraska. Health officials say none of the 17 Americans so far have shown symptoms. If that continues, those people could be able to go to their homes, where they would be monitored daily over the next 42 days. Now, not everyone is off that cruise ship just yet. Tender boats will start bringing the remaining passengers to shore in the morning. We've also learned one French passenger became sick and started showing symptoms today while on their flight home to France. This was after they cleared medical screenings. In total, 3 people have died in the outbreak. Others have gotten sick from the virus, typically spread by rats. CNN's Rafael Romo is at the CDC headquarters in Atlanta. Rafael, a lot of questions about what happens now.
Yeah, what happens next is quite a process. And let me tell you, Jessica, that process started early this morning because it took about 15 and a half hours from the moment the cruise ship approached the Spanish port of Tenerife in the Canary Islands until the moment the last group of passengers was transported to shore around 9:30 p.m. local time in the Canary Islands or 4:30 p.m. here in the eastern United States. The first day of evacuations from the cruise ship at the center of a hantavirus outbreak concluded. Spanish Health Minister Mónica Garcia said at a news conference a total of 94 people of 19 nationalities, including 17 Americans, disembarked from the MV Hondias, with Garcia saying the operation went according to plan. The Americans are now headed home, but the evacuations are not over. The final 2 flights, which will evacuate people to Australia and the Netherlands, will depart tomorrow, the health minister said, with those passengers set to, imagine this, Jessica, spend yet another night on board the ship tonight. The plane heading for Australia is expected to depart around 6 p.m. local time on Monday, Garcia added. And there in Tenerife with Spanish authorities was the Director General of the World Health Organization, who had a message for people who might be very concerned about the possibility of another pandemic.
This is not another COVID. And the risk to the public is low. So they shouldn't be scared and they shouldn't panic. This is based on how the virus is behaving now, because this virus is well known. and there are assessments that have been done. But not only that, this, for several years, there were assessments on the behavior of the virus. So that's why we say the risk is low.
In another development, the French Prime Minister said in a post on X that one of the 5 French nationals repatriated from Tenerife on Sunday showed symptoms of hantavirus while on board the flight returning them to France. The Prime Minister said that as a result, these 5 passengers were immediately placed in strict isolation until further notice. This means the passengers are receiving medical care and will undergo testing and a full health assessment. He said France's Prime Minister also said that he will later issue a decree implementing isolation measures for close contacts. Jessica?
All right, Rafael Romo with the latest from Atlanta. Thank you for that. And Dr. Celine Gounder joins us now. She's an infectious disease specialist and epidemiologist. Doctor, you've also written extensively on the hantavirus. Thank you so much for being here with us to talk through all of this. Rafael just went through kind of where things are. What is your assessment of how effective the response has been so far to contain this outbreak?
I think my biggest concern has been the lack of communication to the American public. We as clinicians did not receive a health alert until Friday afternoon. It seems to have been timed with the plans around the 17 Americans being returned home, but I think the American public had a lot of questions leading up to that as to how are these Americans going to be quarantined? What is the testing protocol? And I think because of that absence of leadership and communication, that raised a lot of questions. People are understandably very scared coming out of the COVID pandemic and asking themselves, is this a replay of what we saw in 2020?
Yeah, and to that end, I want you as the medical professional to lay this out for people. How concerned should the general public be?
Yeah, the risk to the general public remains really low. Think of it this way. COVID was a wildfire. It spread through the air. People who did not have symptoms could still infect other people, and the entire world was fuel for the COVID virus. Hantavirus is like a wet log in a stone fireplace. It requires direct, sustained contact with a sick person. The virus infects deep lung tissue, so it doesn't get coughed or breathed out in large enough amounts to cross a room. Hantavirus is not a new virus. This is a virus we've been studying for decades. And infectious disease specialists understand how this virus moves the way, say, an engineer or electrician might understand how electrical current moves through a wire. So the material here, the virus here, determines the outcome. And every data point from the outbreak so far is consistent with what the science would predict.
And so now we have these 17 Americans who are being flown to this quarantine center in Nebraska, where our understanding is they're going to be evaluated, and from that, it will be determined if they will be able to then go home and be monitored for some 42 days, or if they'll stay there in Nebraska. From the outside looking in, I think a lot of people go, wait a minute, shouldn't they just stay at the outbreak center in Nebraska? Would you help people understand that process?
Yeah, so they're assessing the level of exposure. So in how much contact, how close of contact, how intensive contact did they each have with known hantavirus cases? And this is in fact identical to what was done for Ebola back in the 2014 to 2016 epidemic in West Africa. I was an Ebola aid worker. When I landed at Newark Airport, they gave us thermometers and cell phones and diaries to log our symptoms, to check in. And then depending on our level of exposure, we were quarantined differently. So my level of exposure was I had no known contact with somebody with Ebola without wearing protective equipment. So my level of risk was very low. And I could quarantine at home, which I did for 3 weeks. And so it's a similar kind of stratification of risk and determining what level of quarantine is needed accordingly.
Yeah. And what will it be like once, I mean, you kind of just went through what it was like for you, but this is, they're going to an actual facility in Nebraska. How might that be different?
Well, it depends. So some of them, the low-risk people would be allowed to quarantine at home, which was my experience. For those who are being kept at the National Quarantine Center, so this is the only federally funded quarantine center in the United States, they have experience with this kind of thing. They handled the quarantine of the COVID passengers on the cruise ship early in 2020. People may remember. I think people are having flashbacks to that moment. But this center handled that quarantine, and they have practice doing that. The advantage here is hantavirus is actually a far less contagious infectious virus. So the stakes in that respect are lower. And the other thing that's really important here is for people who are high risk for developing severe hantavirus disease, they need to be near a medical center that has the capacity for ECMO, which is the heart-lung bypass machine, because when they develop that kind of severe disease, that's the only thing that can save them. And so this is actually very much in their interest if they're at higher risk for infection.
Yeah. And I heard you at the top of our conversation talking about the lack of communication. What you perceive as a lack of, or it could be better communication. How else would you kind of evaluate the CDC response to all of this?
Well, we have not heard from the HHS secretary. We have not heard, we in fact don't have a confirmed CDC director. We finally heard from the acting director, Jade Bhattacharya, who's wearing two hats, in fact. He's also the NIH director. We heard from him today on Jake Tapper's show. We don't have a confirmed Surgeon General. The FDA commissioner has just been fired. We really have a massive void of leadership at the very top to communicate with the American public. And I think we should be having daily situation updates for the American public to understand not only what is the risk to us, but also what is being done to address the situation aboard the cruise ship.
Yeah. All right. More to come. Dr. Celine Gounder, great to have you on. Thank you so much. And after days of waiting, Iran responds to the U.S. proposal to end the war. President Trump says it's totally unacceptable. We'll talk about where things stand right now. Plus, the president is set for a high-stakes trip to China this week and a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. We're going to break that down. You're in the CNN newsroom.
Don't stay too late.
I'll try.
Friday night, closing the books. Just a few more hours. That's not true.